Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Post Frame Podcast. So, in this series, we're going to cover 6 key areas of general contracting. In this episode, we're going to talk about cost control.
Cost control. Well, there's nothing more that an owner building a building and has hired a general contractor. There's nothing more they want from them for their project to get done at the very least, if not under budget.
Under budget. Yep.
Right. So managing costs is kind of, we said communication was kind of at the core of general
Are you
contracting.
going to change it on me?
I'm not going to change it.
Okay.
Cost control is
It's pretty important.
It's a big deal,
It's
right?
important.
And so there's some minor activities that are related to cost control, like making sure subs get paid on time, right, and managing invoices, and handling the paperwork, I guess, or the paper trails of subcontractors providing invoices for, hey, this is the work I've done, right? A general contractor compiles all that stuff. Might work with a title company to release funds, right? So there's the tactical nature of just making sure everybody gets paid on time.
Yeah.
And that can be a bigger deal than you might think of. If a subcontractor starts having work that they've done, that it starts taking a long time for them to get paid because the general contractor is not organized and doing their work well, that there might be interest or liens, lien in LIEN, that might be placed on the project, which is essentially a party involved with the project saying, I haven't been paid for services due. I'm going to put a lien on this project.
Okay.
And there's rules around that on when you can do it and what the reasons are and all that. But as an owner, you don't want a piece of property with a construction project going on with it that has a lien on it because your general contractor isn't managing your project well.
Right.
Right. That's some of the tactical side of cost control, of just making sure everything's flowing right and getting paid.
Yeah.
Right. But then you've got, okay, what things might create additional costs, right? And that you've got to control as a general contractor. There might be weather-related delay costs. And so how do you work through that? How do you work through that with your subs if, a whole bunch of snow just got dumped, right? We just came out of wintertime.
Yep.
Right? 6 inches of snow just got dumped on that job site. And how do we effectively and efficiently get this snow cleared so that we don't spend too much money, but it doesn't delay the project, and we don't end up really slowing things down because we didn't manage this snow accumulation well.
Yeah.
Right? And so being able to manage your way through things that come up throughout construction are a huge point of cost control that is on the general contractor's responsibility to make sure happen well.
Okay.
Right? Another thing I just saw in my notes here that impacts cost control is hiring reputable subs.
Okay.
Meaning you can have costs run when you don't hire someone that really understood the scope and the drawings and the specifications well and bid that appropriately. If they didn't know what they were doing, they might say, hey, I didn't account for this.
Right.
I need some more money. Right. And so who you choose to be on your team, right? Who the general contractor chooses to subcontract all that work through, and make sure they knew what they were doing from the start, is a massive part of cost control.
Yeah.
Which kind of plays into coordination and construction management and some of those other topics. Another area of cost control would be managing, whether you call them contingencies or allowances, right? Normally, as an owner, you should be thinking about this too, but as a general contractor, you normally have some budget items for a project that are for the what ifs.
Okay.
Right? That's generally what we call a contingency, right? That I budgeted something that, hey, this project may have 10 grand of, like, maybe an unknown cost, but it might be weather related, it might be delay related, it might be change, I don't know, right?
There's just something set aside.
Yeah,
just in case.
Right. And
Okay.
and you're normally, as a general contractor, you're normally pretty transparent with your owner about what you budgeted in for some of that stuff. But then there's this similar but different bucket that might be called allowances. Meaning, as a general contractor, an owner might not have totally decided every down to the like let's take plumbing fixtures, for example. They know how many bathrooms. They know, generally what, how many sinks and toilets and all this stuff that's going into it. But they maybe haven't picked it out to the, like, this is the countertop. This is the faucet, right? And the knobs. This is the toilet, right? They might not have gone to that degree. So you might put an allowance that says, I have $20,000 as an allowance built into this budget for plumbing fixtures, let's say.
Yeah.
But then it's up to you as the general contractor to work with the owner to say, hey, here's the allowance we had. As we now go start picking those things, let's be cognizant of how that's comparing in our actual selection and what those actual costs end up being with the allowance we had in it. And so that there's awareness on the owner's side that they're staying in those bounds.
Right.
Unless something's changed and now they want to go blow the budget because they just got a whole bunch more money, somehow for the project.
Yeah.
But anyways, and so that's a piece of cost control.
Okay.
That's on the general contractor, is to help work through maybe the unknowns that were known unknowns, and we took care of with allowances, that all gets brought to fruition in the right way. Between managing delays and how do you expedite things when a delay does happen so costs don't start running on you, to the tactics of making sure everyone gets paid and no unnecessary liens or interest costs or whatever on unpaid bills, to question marks whether those were contingencies or allowances, right? Those are all kind of in this realm of cost control that falls to the general contractor.
Okay.
Or the owner if they're doing that for themselves.
Right.
So yeah, so hopefully that gives listeners or those that are watching this, a bit of a semblance of what they could expect.
Yep.
And if that's worth it, right? You look at this series and you say, I got this. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Right? That's awesome. And you can save some money. You got to be pretty invested though. All right, because when the rubber meets the road, when the men, material, and machines are on site, like you got to be ready, and you got to be there. Or you bring somebody that's trusted on that takes on the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
Or you hybridize it, right? I don't know if that's a word.
Hybridize.
And you hire some of it out. You keep some things yourself, right? Yeah. There's a middle ground there too. So
thanks for watching this last episode in this general contracting series. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Post Frame channel, and thanks for watching.